Why 90% of people never achieve financial freedom. Every morning, millions of people wake up with a singular, deeply ingrained belief that hard work alone is the golden ticket to building lasting wealth. They operate under the assumption that if they simply put in more hours and climb the ladder, financial freedom will inevitably follow. They follow the same rigid routine day after day, year after year, walking a well-trodden path paved by conventional wisdom. It is a predictable existence, defined by the sound of an alarm clock that dictates when their day begins and the heavy weight of expectations that dictates when it ends. Most people spend their absolute best years, their peak health, their highest energy, and their most creative decades, working tirelessly for money. They trade their life force for a paycheck, believing that this exchange is the only way to survive in a modern, competitive world. When payday finally arrives, it feels incredibly rewarding, offering a brief sense of security and validation for the hard labor performed. For a few fleeting hours, the stress of bills and obligations evaporates, replaced by the temporary joy of seeing a balance increase in a digital account. But before they know it, most of that money is already spoken for, drained away by the relentless demands of daily life. The balance that looked so promising on Friday morning is quickly decimated by rent, groceries, utilities, and a mountain of hidden costs that seem to appear out of thin air. Month after month, this draining, soul-crushing cycle repeats itself with clockwork precision. It is an endless loop of earning, spending, and waiting for the next deposit, leaving very little room for long-term planning, personal growth, or the pursuit of true financial autonomy. As their income eventually grows through promotions or job changes, their spending habits often grow even faster. This is the phenomenon of lifestyle inflation, where individuals feel entitled to consume more simply because they have slightly more liquidity at their disposal. A bigger paycheck almost always leads to a bigger, more expensive lifestyle that demands even more maintenance. It creates a psychological trap where the person feels they must maintain a certain outward appearance of success, which only serves to tighten the chains of their financial obligations. New houses with higher property taxes, luxury cars with steep monthly payments, and high-end subscriptions become the new norm. These aren't just purchases, they are anchors that weigh down the individual, making it harder to pivot toward financial independence or pursue higher-level goals. Without ever realizing it, many people build a complex, gilded financial cage around themselves. Every luxury item purchased is an extra hour they must spend trapped in a cubicle, and every new payment plan is another year they must commit to a job they may no longer enjoy. The fundamental truth that gets lost in the noise is that financial freedom has absolutely nothing to do with how much you earn. A person making a massive salary can still be perpetually broke, just as a person with a modest income can build a small empire over time. True wealth is defined by how much you keep and how effectively you grow that capital over the long term. It is the art of retention, the discipline of living below your means, and the wisdom to prioritize future stability over the instant gratification of current desires. Many people pride themselves on saving money, tucking it away in a low-interest bank account where it sits dormant for decades. They believe they are being responsible, yet they are failing to recognize that idle money is actually losing its potential to serve as a tool for growth. Meanwhile, the silent, invisible thief known as inflation quietly reduces purchasing power every single year. Costs of living rise, while the value of a stagnant dollar diminishes, meaning that those who save without investing are actually getting poorer by doing nothing at all. Your money may be growing in its nominal number on a screen, but its real-world value is shrinking in purchasing power. If your rate of return is lower than the rate of inflation, you are effectively watching your life savings evaporate before your eyes while you sleep. Most people operate on a linear model where they trade their limited, finite time for a finite amount of money. Because there are only 24 hours in a day, there is a hard, insurmountable ceiling on how much they can earn through labor alone, no matter how hard they work. And because their livelihood is tied directly to their personal presence, when they stop working, whether due to illness, burnout, or retirement, the income stops immediately. They have no backup, no machine running in the background, and no capital working on their behalf. The financially free, however, play an entirely different, much more sophisticated game. They understand that the goal isn't to be the best worker, but to be the best allocator of resources, focusing on systems that function independently of their physical labor. They shift their focus entirely toward building assets that produce consistent, passive income streams. Whether it is real estate, business equity, or dividend-paying investments, they seek things that pay them while they go about their daily lives or even while they sleep. These assets act as tireless employees that keep working even when the owner decides to take a break. They don't require vacations, they don't demand raises, and they don't get tired. They simply continue to generate value as long as the underlying system is sound. Unfortunately, the average person wastes an enormous amount of valuable, irreplaceable time on daily distractions. From mindless scrolling on social media to excessive binge-watching, they occupy their minds with entertainment that provides zero return on the investment of their life energy. Impulse spending becomes an unconscious habit, a quick fix for boredom or stress that provides a fleeting dopamine hit. Every impulsive purchase is a theft from your future self, diverting capital that could have been used to buy a piece of your own freedom. While the average person obsesses over the latest trends, their financial education remains completely ignored. They learn how to use the latest gadgets but never learn how to manage a balance sheet, read a cash flow statement, or understand the tax advantages of investing. One path, the path of consumption, inevitably consumes your wealth and keeps you tethered to the workforce. The other path, the path of creation and allocation, builds wealth and grants you the ultimate luxury of choosing how you spend your time. The wealthy understand a simple, non-negotiable principle that differentiates them from the masses. They view every purchase through a filter, categorizing everything they touch as either a drain on their resources or a catalyst for their future expansion. Liabilities are anything that takes money out of your pocket consistently, like luxury cars, high-interest debt, or depreciating tech. The wealthy minimize these items because they realize that every dollar spent on a liability is a dollar that could have been used to buy an asset. Assets, by contrast, are those magical entities that put money into your pocket, month after month. They are the seeds of your financial forest, and the wealthy spend their lives planting as many of these seeds as possible to ensure a bountiful harvest later. Everything changes for an individual once they truly learn this distinction and internalize it. They stop looking for ways to spend more and start looking for ways to acquire assets that will eventually replace their need for a traditional salary. They begin the tedious but essential work of tracking where every single dollar goes. By auditing their spending, they identify leaks in their financial bucket and plug them, ensuring that more capital is redirected toward their investment goals. They start investing consistently, regardless of whether the market is up or down, viewing it as a long-term accumulation project. They treat investing like a bill that must be paid to themselves before anyone else gets a cent of their hard-earned money. They proactively create additional income streams, knowing that reliance on a single employer is the ultimate financial risk. Whether it is a side business, a rental property, or a digital asset, they diversify to protect their financial foundation from potential collapse. The results of this shift are almost never instant, which is why most people abandon the strategy too early. It requires a level of patience that is rare in a world obsessed with overnight success stories, but those who persist find the rewards are worth the wait. Wealth, in its most stable form, grows through the slow, steady process of patience. It is not a sprint fueled by adrenaline, it is a marathon fueled by the quiet confidence that your decisions today are building a stronger, more resilient tomorrow. And compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, rewards this consistency beyond measure. By leaving your gains to grow and reinvesting the dividends, you allow your wealth to grow exponentially, turning small, boring contributions into a massive financial engine. Small, disciplined investments made over several decades can become truly life-changing amounts. It is not about timing the market or getting lucky, it is about the simple math of regular, systematic contributions over a long enough time horizon. Financial freedom does not come from clever shortcuts or get-rich-quick schemes that promise the world. Those paths are usually traps designed to exploit the desperate. True freedom is found in the slow, boring work of consistent, long-term capital allocation. It comes from adopting a long-term thinking mindset, where you weigh the cost of today's choices against the benefits of 10 or 20 years down the road. You begin to value your future self as much as, or more than, your present self. Step by step, the crushing weight of high-interest debt begins to disappear. As the liabilities are paid off, the interest that was once being stolen from you is now being put back into your own pocket, accelerating your journey toward autonomy. Simultaneously, your assets continue multiplying, building a momentum that becomes self-sustaining. The interest earned on your interest starts to outpace the contributions you make, signaling that your money has finally started to do the heavy lifting for you. As your net worth grows, time, which was once your biggest enemy, becomes your greatest asset. Because you are no longer forced to trade your time for basic survival, you gain the freedom to choose your projects, your company, and your environment. Life begins to feel entirely different. The anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck fades away, replaced by a sense of calm. You no longer walk through the world feeling like a servant to your bills, but rather like the master of your own destiny. Eventually, the moment arrives where the income generated by your assets fully covers your basic living expenses. You have reached the crossover point, where you no longer work because you have to, but because you choose to spend your energy on what matters most. At this stage, money starts working significantly harder than the person. You have successfully shifted from being a slave to the system to being an owner of the system, and your wealth now grows at a speed you could never achieve through labor alone. This is the sacred moment financial freedom becomes an undeniable reality. It is not just about the money in the account, it is about the autonomy, the peace of mind, and the ability to live your life on your own terms without compromise. The 10% who achieve financial freedom make their money work for them, while the other 90% spend their entire lives working for money. The choice between those two paths is made not in a single event, but in the small, consistent decisions you make starting right now.